This is Dr. Martin, and in this video I will talk with you about the structures of the brain. Brain parts. The biggest part we call cerebrum, and we have inferior posterior part we call cerebellum. We have diencephalon, and we have the brainstem. When we look at the surface of the cerebrum, you will see it's not flat, it's just very convoluted. You will see some foldings, you will see some grooves. If these grooves are shallow, then you will call, if it's one of them you're mentioning, it's sulcus. If plural, we will call sulci. If this is a deep groove, we will call fissure. And this convoluted part, folding, we will call gyrus for just one of them, and more than one we will call plural form is gyri. When we look at our brain, we will talk about three fissures. One of the fissure we will call longitudinal fissure, separates the brain in two hemispheres. So we call this longitudinal fissure. Longitudinal fissure houses an extension of dura mater we will call falx cerebri. And we have another fissure here we will call transverse fissure, and that is the separate fissure that separates the cerebrum from cerebellum, and houses here the another extension of dura mater we will call tentorium cerebri. Tentorium cerebri. Then we have another fissure here we will call lateral fissure, separates the temporal lobe from frontal and parietal lobe. So we talked about the three fissures. Longitudinal fissure separates the brain into two hemispheres. We talk about the transverse fissure, separates the cerebrum from cerebellum. And we talk about the lateral fissure, separates the temporal lobe from frontal and parietal lobe. Then we have the central sulcus. Central sulcus, as you see here, and you can see in this model a little better. You see, central sulcus separate the frontal lobe from the parietal lobe. We have another sulcus here. We will say parieto-occipital sulcus, separate the parietal lobe from the occipital lobe. Look at the central sulcus. In front of the central sulcus, we have a gyrus, belongs to frontal lobe, we will call primary motor cortex. Behind, posteriorly, we have another gyrus that belongs to parietal lobe, we will call primary sensory cortex. Those are the cortexes and presented for all body parts. We will see the homunculus module because you have more neuron designated for face and hand comparing to leg and the toes. You see here, it says the hip, trunk, neck, head, and let's see, yes, arm, hand, fingers, as you can see it. So that is form the homunculus shape. And frontal lobe for here, we have parietal lobe, we have occipital lobe, and we have temporal lobe. We have one more lobe I wanted to show you. I can show you in this model, and you can see the here we go. Under this is the lateral fissure or fissure of the sylvian fissure. When we look under the sylvian fissure, we will have another lobe. We will call this lobe insula. Okay, now let's go see the part of the brain. We said this is the cerebellum, and here we have the corpus callosum. Corpus callosum is a white formed by the white myelinated axons of the neurons that is already in the cerebrum. Let me show you here that you can see the cortex is very thin, millimetric area that has the gray matter, and inside we have white matter. White matter formed by the myelinated axons of the motor neuron, and the gray matter formed by the cell body and dendrites of the motor neurons. When we look here, we see the lateral ventricle, we see the thalamus here, we have this triangle area, hypothalamus, and infundibulum, and the pituitary gland or hypophysis. When you look here, you see the mammary bodies, you see the optic chiasm here. Those are the part of the diencephalon. You see the fornix, and you see the epiphysis or pineal gland as well. And superior and inferior colliculus located here as well as. And here we have the Sylvian duct or aqueduct of Sylvie, and we have the fourth ventricle just right there. And we have the cerebellum. Cerebellum has the gray matter, and the white matter is shows like three branches, right? That's why we call this white matter of cerebellum, we call the arbor vitae, tree of life. Here we have the brainstem, midbrain, pons, and medulla oblongata. After medulla oblongata, brain ends, and spinal cord, medulla spinalis start. Thank you for watching.